I'm enjoying this. That's awesome.
This is absolutely gorgeous out here. I took a moment just as we were walking down and just listen. And it's just that little birds chirping, and we got leaves falling on us, and there was a mosquito flying around earlier. I think he's just come back. But it's just amazingly relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's almost like time just stops when you're here. And I think anytime when you are in the nature, it changes everything in a few minutes. You feel differently, and I think, you know, when we talk about, we didn't talk about our stuff, like our retreats and experiences. I think that's the major thing, when people like really allow themselves to go out of their offices and out of the normal, you know, hotel rooms and running the workshops in hotel rooms, and just really go to the nature, because it is really big part of the change and big part of your state change. So yeah, I agree.
It's so super important. I think that there's a lot of science around, and again, like you're doing a retreat of some description, but just how important the environment is.
Yeah.
And like you said, we touched on in an earlier episode that, like, I don't do sitting in an office, and sitting in a cubicle is not the way to get the best out of me. And so me understanding the type of environment, but I think anybody coming out to this environment, and it's so true when you jump on the reviews, for example, that we have here at the Ridge at Mullaney, that's what everybody says. And we have one complaint from most of our customers, and that is, I should have stayed longer. Because you do come here and, you know, you're 2 nights and it's not enough. And so...
Yeah, absolutely. Nature recharges, right? And this is absolutely outside of everything. And I love that it's so disconnected, but close enough to Mullaney, or, you know, to the town. But you don't need to really go to the town, because it's perfect. And with environment and with performance and everything what we talk about, I think there's something I wanted to ask. So I hope we will spend a little bit of time sitting here and talking about the major thing that is influencing our performance and our life. And I believe that's mindset and our beliefs, and, you know, our emotional state. But in that mindset and beliefs, I think there are moments when we change, and you have amazing story when you change your life, and you had to change probably your beliefs, and you had to fight with fears and everything what was against you, and all doubts that you have. And I'm curious, like what happened? Like, how did you actually first start it? Like, what was the major fuel for changing, or like being where you are at right now?
Yeah, I think it was probably in turning 49, and I remember sitting in a little chalet in France with my wife, and understanding that, hey, I turn 50 next year, and you sort of realise that, what's this all for? And what I had been spending the last 18 years doing was very much a career-driven, wanting to get to the next spot and get to the next spot. And I'd managed to make my way to the top of that tree, and still found an emptiness, I guess. And an opportunity had arisen to do this development. And so, following, I guess, my heart, and for the first time, not my head, I know that if I would have taken the feasibility to a financial advisor, they probably would have said, what are you thinking? But somehow I just knew when I drove in through the gate here that this is meant to be. And I don't like regrets, and I didn't want to be laying on my deathbed at 90 thinking, oh, what if? So I'm very lucky to have a supporting wife, and when we decided to, hey, let's give this a red hot crack, and that was probably one of the major turning points for me in my life.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that as well. I think that what is important, or what I'm hearing in your story, and that's probably for everyone who wants to actually become better and really try to be at their best. I think the major point is the decision, right? Like, you, firstly, when you knew financially it's probably not going to be great, so you still made the decision because you believed in that. So I think that beliefs and decision, I feel like that's the major driver for any change, right? So, because how you can take action or different behavior when you didn't decide yet. So I feel like I hear that you just made a decision, and you knew that, you believed in that. You said that I feel this is it. And I think that's what people don't pause enough for that kind of, you know, feeling, and they say, okay, I want this in my life. Because everybody can say what they don't want, because it's easy. Because we don't have regrets, we just know what we don't want, right? We don't need to think about sacrifices because we just don't want that. And that's fine. I just don't want this in my life because I know it's bad for me. But no one knows how to make the decisions about what we want. And I have conversations with a million people all the time, and everybody says, but I really don't know what I want. So how that came,
I'm just as you were talking then, that decision that I made came off the back of 5 weeks in the Alps, and that's very much, I love the mountains, I love skiing. Paused, exactly.
Perfect.
So I don't think that you can make, during the busyness of life, and
No.
everybody, there's this, busyness is actually a word that I don't like to use. A wise man just told me 3 weeks ago that if you're busy, you're not in control of your own destiny.
Yeah.
So now I'd like
Perfect.
to think that my level of activity is around productivity and choosing what to do, and not just an aimless busyness for the sake of being busy. But it's not until you do have that opportunity to really stop and have some self-awareness. And what I didn't touch on, what led to that decision, was my wife and I sat down, because I'd been unhappy for a period of time.
Yeah.
And she said, let's sit down and just write pros and cons with where your situation is right now. And as soon as you actually put pen to paper and you're going, well, what I'm doing right now, these are all the positives, these are all the negatives, and then understanding that that needed a change.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that change, then we can look at what else could I be doing.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's so many things people can do. And how you said, I have to pause. So I always said, if you want to actually try to find out what's next, what is your next 10 or 20 years looking like? Like what is going to happen in next decade, where you want to be in 10, 20 years time? Because if you make the decision, and that's why I'm touching base on decision, if you make the decision today, like I want to, I don't know, be someone else, or I want to feel differently, I want to live differently, and I want to build up something, you know, great in my life, so you can actually still change, because a decade is a long time. And I think people are scared to make decisions. So I feel like there is a little bit of fear playing. So did you have any fear when you were making the decision?
I absolutely had fears in making that decision, because that decision led to the position that I held had security. It had financial security, it had stature, and off the back of all of that, that's stability, right? And for all of a sudden to just walk away from that, had a lot of fears. But in saying that, with every decision, there's a consequence, right? And understanding, well, if everything goes right, I could end up here. And if everything goes wrong, well, hey, we can just fall back to this position. I think just there's risk. But it's understanding that no change happens without any pain and suffering.
Yeah, and I think there was someone very smart that says, if you are not failing enough, you are not growing, and you are actually not achieving anything, right? So we actually need to learn through failure or through mistakes, right? If I invested 20 years ago and I invested a lot of time bad way and I lost money, I now know what actually to avoid and how to behave the next time, right? So we adjusting our behavior. So I think that's, from performance perspective, I think that's very important. Like we decide what doesn't work anymore for us. So when you say you write down stuff, right? Like I always said, just write down what you don't want in life, because that's easy. And now start to actually focus what you want and write down what you want. And it can be simple thing, like I want to wake up in the morning and go for a walk every morning. I want to have time, or I want to go exercise, or I want to spend breakfast with my family. Whatever is people's decisions or everyone's decision, I think that's the most important part, to actually just kind of talk about that or write about it and set it up as, actually, this is me. And that's what we don't have, right?
What I think you were touching on then, that's really your values, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's you really understanding what your values
Good
are, and you're
point.
being driven by that, because clearly exercise is important for you, and you value that.
I think values are changing, right? Every year we can have different values. And I think you don't think about health when you are 20, right? Because there's no reason. For some people it is. They understand that health is important all life, but not everyone, right? Because, I don't know, we partied, we did things, you know, as probably almost everyone. And later on, when you start to look at, actually, I can die soon, right? Like it's like people dying in 50s, right? People dying in 60s. People, like, you start to like realize that like you're mortal. So I think that's when we kind of wake up and or if it's any other crisis, and we start to change a little bit values. So I think for me, I think being okay and quite healthy and having that period of time when I wasn't healthy because of IVFs and everything, I realized our body is very fragile and it doesn't touch you for a month or two, but then when you do it for 3 years, or 4 years, it just really starts to change your physiology, your muscles and your strength, and then with age and everything else going on, right? So you realize that you are getting weaker. Like it's not great. And I think that was for me change of values, right? Like I realized, no, actually, I don't want to be burnout. I don't want to be working this hard, because if I will work this hard, I will probably end up on my deathbed, maybe in 60s, right? Or I don't want it. I want to live longer. And not that just, live longer because I want to have fun, but it's more about, I'm just really curious where this world is going. I just really want to know what will, happen next, what is new discovery. And I feel like I don't want to miss out on that. But with decisions, I think when you're talking about values as well. So do you feel like when you make the decision in the cabin, and like you were like, yeah, let's do it, let's build something, and like, do you feel like you realign with your values, or you change your values, and then you follow them through that kind of stages of building as well? Because I think that was, there's a lot of struggle with building, and I'm sure that you were working so hard. So how did you keep follow them and keep demonstrate those values in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I don't think I was following them, and I think that decision led to me following them more. And being caught up in that business and being caught
Yeah.
up on that wheel and wanting to climb the corporate ladder and get higher and earn more and become more
Yeah.
I was basically, what do they say, you're climbing up a ladder that's leaning up against the wrong building. So I found
Great
that
saying.
as soon as I jumped off the ladder and started
Yeah.
climbing up a ladder that's actually leaning up against the building on where I wanted to go, was a big
Yeah.
decision. So I think my values haven't changed, but I think that I've just started following them and being more true to them and being
Yeah.
more true to myself.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's another part, being true to ourselves. So a lot of people go on the retreats or just talk to friends, and they say they don't feel great, but there's always that but. It's but I have to work, but I don't have time, but something, right? So I always said, when people talk and there's but or because, but and because, it's saying that that's basically excuse. So we trying to find excuses, and I think that was Tony Robbins who said that if you are full of excuses, you don't have time to grow, and you don't do actually anything. You stay stuck, right? Because some people, they don't have
True.
any excuses and they take action. So they're far ahead of you. But the moment you start to have excuses, you're going nowhere.
Yep.
So I feel like that's,
I love what you said then, because it's the taking action part. Because I think you can sit there and you can come up with ideas and you can
Yeah.
write lists, but you've got to do something. And I know some people I've spoken to, they've gotten caught up of, I've got to go and buy the right pair of trainers, I've got to go and see a podiatrist, then I've got to go and buy the latest Nike running shorts.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to do any of that, you just need
Yeah.
to move. And it's as
Exactly.
simple as that, and take some action. And there's a really good saying that it's difficult to steer a parked car, but as soon as you're moving, then you can steer,
Yeah.
and you're actually headed in a direction. So what I'm really curious about is, what decision have you made in your life that's had a really big impact?
Yeah, it's a few. And I think I started to talk about the reflection of like, for high performance, or from for achieving something or being better. I realized that the major thing that has to happen is actually decision making, making decisions fast. And I was doing them very fast when I was young, as you know, like I changed the countries, live in different places, open the business, close the business, sell the business, open another business in different countries. So it was always kind of easy, and I made probably very similar way decisions like you did, in a chalet, like when you were talking about, this is what I want, this is what I believe is right, and this is how I want it. And I really felt that. I always had that intuition and feel and the belief that this is the next chapter I wanna do, and it always worked. It was great, and yeah, I traveled the world, saw the world, and I was happy because everything was kind of working. Almost like the universe aligns, right? And things works for you, like you said. Things just come together, even though they look like they are not achievable at the beginning. And then I realized that I had this pause when I was not making decisions. So before it was easy to move countries and just pack the stuff or buy the business or sell the business and doing anything. I wasn't scared. I was like no fear. And I think it's also probably, I don't know, age, maybe confidence. But then when I was losing physical health and I was feeling probably less confidence because of that, I a little bit changed. You know, I didn't like what I see and how I see myself and how I feel. And with losing the confidence, I realized I struggle to make decisions. So for everyone who is listening, I think that can be really good, you know, point to remember that if you're not moving in life, maybe that is a little bit of lack of confidence that is decreasing, and also decisions are really hard, right, and slow and less risky. So I realized that I didn't do any risky decision. My adventure, my values like adventure and challenges and all that stuff was gone, and I just lived this very safe, for me, very boring life. For some people, they love it, but it's totally against my body, right? So that was a really good realization, and then I started to make slowly decisions because I learned that decision is basically father of action, right? Or father of action is decision. Like you actually can't take action when you don't make decision. So I started slowly. I started to get back my health. I was like, you know what, I'm going to exercise. And my first thing was exercise 5 days a week, then 6 days a week, then 7 days a week. And if I can't make, you know, I'm super tired even now and I really don't sleep much, I still go for 12 minutes run. Like I did do that at least 12, 13 minutes. I still do it, even though I'm dying on the run. But I think it's just to being able to be confident and say, you know what, I did it. I did it even if that was struggle. So I think that's something that I learned about decisions. Like you need to actually start doing them again and doing in, you know, daily, day to day. You know what I eat, I made decision. Like you mentioned last time, you know, don't go to restaurant, don't take Uber Eats or whatever it is, simple and easy and fast. Just make something. You always have fruit and veggie in fridge. Just grab what you have in fridge and make something simple. You have always eggs in the fridge, I'm sure. So you just make eggs, right? It's easier, better, and healthier. So I'm trying to really focus on daily decision about how I spend time, where I go, what events I attend, who I talk to, who I meet. I'm really careful now, but I'm making that decision really consciously, and I think that's really important.
Yep, I think you've definitely got to do something. You touched on fear. What are you afraid of now?
Myself. No, I think it's, look, I really don't know. I was actually thinking, it's very interesting you asked me this question because I was thinking about it so much. And I talked to my brother about that actually when I was back home last month, last month. And I was like, it's so weird. Like, I don't know what I'm afraid of. I don't know what I'm scared of. Like, I'm not scared of that I will be homeless or if I will be left, you know, or if I divorce or whatever it is, like whatever the wars you can imagine. But there was nothing. But with my son, it came, and I'm definitely scared that, you know, something will be wrong with him. That's probably only fear. Like I can just
Let's
pinpoint
give
straight
him a
away.
little plug. Little Oliver, I got to meet him a few weeks ago. He's absolutely gorgeous. How old is he now?
3 months.
3 months. And that's obviously changed your life.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But it is, you know, everybody tells you that your life will change, and I think
For the better.
I think it's the change is like changes that you really don't put yourself as a most important thing in the world because there was, you know, no one else really, and there's someone to take care of, someone to consider, someone that you look at first. But that unselfishness, like I feel like I became less selfish, which is really nice. It's a really good feeling. I love it. I really love it. That's, you know, finally my world is like a little bit different. But I also say don't change your life because of child, because there is a lot of things that you can, you know, your child should fit into your life. So I still do all the stuff, you know, trying to eat healthy, trying to sleep if I can, and trying to exercise every day. So it is more about like I'm not trying to change too much. So because finally I was, you know, on track with living my values and demonstrating them. So I think that's important. Like with anything that happens in people's life, you can still keep your performance, you can still take care of that, and you can actually perform high in any conditions.
Yep, very, very, very true. And I think that there's a lot to be said for people that do have children. That's male and female. I've got a friend of mine and he's put on a bit of weight since his wife had a baby, so he doesn't really have any excuses. But he calls it, says, oh, this is just the dad bod. And it's almost like
It's
this justification that,
yeah.
oh, now that I'm a father, I've
Yep.
got an excuse. And yet his wife, who's the one who's actually had the child, has an amazing figure and
Yeah.
prioritises her exercise. So,
So justification, I would say that's another probably enemy of performance. Absolutely. Just trying to justify, because what justifies in your brain is actually your ego. So that tries to keep you safe and comfortable, right? So please don't listen to that. Because yeah, there is nothing to justify. You want to be healthy or not. That's all.
so is the ego driven by your head and then your purpose is driven by your heart? Is that one way to explain it?
Yeah, probably that's a simple way to say. Yeah. It's definitely the voice in the head, right? It's trying to keep us safe and comfortable always, and conditioned, right? That's how ego works, and not that it's bad. Sometimes it's needed.
Yeah, I could agree with that. As I was climbing the corporate ladder and I had to have
Yeah,
the black shiny BMW, now that just does not interest me one bit.
that's interesting how our values change, right? What is important to us. So maybe everyone who is listening, from performance perspective, really ask yourself what is important to you, what really matters, truly matters to you. And if it's health, start to make decisions around your health. If it's relationships, start there. But any improvement in any area will actually improve your performance in general. So probably that's something we can finish if you have
What
anything
a
else.
great way to finish. It's been an absolute pleasure again. I've super enjoyed sitting here on this log in nature
With mosquitoes.
with mosquitoes. They're part of nature and
Yeah.
we're working with them.
Yeah, me too. I love to talk to you, Magnus. So thank you very much for your time and looking forward to the next one.